Hey there guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Matthew Presents, and today it is episode 10 of my best possible series. So today I'm going to be going through all the episode 10s of New Who, and as always picking my favourite. So sit back and enjoy. So then guys, we are 3/4 of the way through this series and it's absolutely flew by. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I've absolutely loved it. It's the best thing I've done on this channel so far, and it just gets better and better. I mean, like episode 8, I was taken back by how good some of the episodes were and how good that lineup was. And once again, the episodes I'm going to be talking about today are amazing, because I'd forgotten about what episodes I was talking about, and when I was gathering the pictures together, I was looking through the episode guides and I was like, oh my god, I get to talk about this episode, and I get to talk about this episode, and I get to rant about this, and I get to praise this, and yeah, episode 10 is going to be an absolutely thrilling episode with some great episodes to talk about. So without any further ado, let's start with the Series 1, Episode 10, which was The Doctor Dances. Now this is another fantastic episode, and I couldn't praise The Empty Child enough in the last episode, and once again I can't praise The Doctor Dances enough. This two-parter, this fantastic two-parter continued on just where it left off, with a great cliffhanger in the hospital, which was just a really creepy environment. And this is when we got to see the gas mask zombies in full flow. There was an army of them, and it was such a thrilling episode because they were getting chased around this hospital, and it kept me on the edge of my seat throughout, and the little child was just incredibly creepy. And the standout moment for me, without a doubt, in this story was the ending. Because the Ninth Doctor's been scarred by loss that we obviously found out more about in the Day of the Doctor, and we never really got to see how what he'd been through up until then. But now we know what happened in the Day of the Doctor. We can kind of see how he was and why he was so relieved that everyone could live. He was so used to people dying in his name, and so used to death being around him and death following him. And just to see him so happy that the nanogenes had saved every single person, and this one time everyone survived, especially in the World War environment we were in, which of course was surrounded by so much death and destruction. It's one of the darkest times in human history, probably the darkest. So for him to be in an environment like that, seeing this young child being tortured by being under this gas mask and wanting his mummy, just to see the freedom on his face when he just says, "Everybody lives, Rose, just this once, everybody lives." It's just, what a great moment that is. And when we met Colin Baker at Sci-Fi Scarborough, he said that if he could be the Doctor in a modern Who episode, it would be this one, because he just loves the idea of everyone living, and I couldn't agree with him more. It's a fantastic episode. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, and it has one of the best endings to a two-parter I think we've ever had. And the Ninth Doctor was amazing. So yeah, I can only really give the Doctor Dances a fantastic rating. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. Now someone please tell me how we can go from The Doctor Dances to Love and Monsters. I mean, my opinions on this episode have improved a little bit over time. 5 Who fans did a video on it, and that changed my opinion a little bit. But I'm always forever not going to like this story, and it's kind of became not a story that people hate so much. It's one that you either love or you hate. Some people really like the dynamic of us following this guy's life through what was like a vlog sort of thing, like a documentary of his life, and how how the Doctor can affect a normal person's life. Seeing it from a human's point of view, I think, was a very good idea. And the dynamic of this episode had so much goddamn premise. I mean, following a human's life through, being on Earth and the Doctor intervening, seeing that from a human's perspective made us feel like we were Elton, made us feel closer to him as a character, like we could relate to him a bit. as a viewer, but and the Absorbaloff absorbing people and their faces appearing in his skin, that was quite dark because the victims could still talk to their friends. They were absorbed by him and there was no way they could escape, but they could still talk and hear their friends, which is quite upsetting and sad. But it was all ruined by the Absorbaloff. I mean, no offense to the child that made this film, but the Doctor Who should have really put the Absorbaloff in a children needs special or a comic relief special, something that's meant to be comical, because this episode is one that could have been took seriously, and the Absorbaloff ruined it completely. Am I supposed to feel sympathy for these characters? Am I supposed to feel sympathy for Linda? As they get taken away one by one, am I supposed to feel sorry for them when they're getting absorbed by a fat green creature that burps and its stomach rumbles, and it's played by a comedian? I mean, I love Peter Kay as a comedian, but why the hell was he cast? I mean, it's like they were deliberately trying to make this villain a laughing stock. I just felt as if all the sympathy I should be feeling for these characters, like when Elton loses Ursula, I feel bad for him, but then I look at the Absorbaloff and I just feel like, oh God, what the hell is this? When he's just like, oh, she's so tasty, tastes like chicken. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, it just ruined the entire episode. It's not the fact that the Doctor wasn't in it, because there's an episode I'm going to go on to after this, which is just phenomenal, and that didn't have the Doctor in it. So it's not the fact that the Doctor was not in this episode. I don't think there were any times when I was craving the Doctor, because Linda were a good group of characters, but they were just horribly let down by the Absorbaloff. I mean, even Victor Kennedy wasn't too bad, but the Absorbaloff just ruined the story completely. It had so much premise and potential, but the Absorbaloff is the worst villain in New Who. He ruined it completely for me. And the way that they ended it, with Ursula saying, oh, we still have a love life, let's not go into that, I was like, give me a bucket, that's disgusting. So Love and Monsters is a story that kind of makes me think of what could have been, and how good it could have been, and how well it could have been done by Russell T Davies, but yeah, it was a complete letdown, and it was destroyed by the Absorbaloff. So it's an episode that I have came to not hate as much as I used to. I respect it more, but it's still not a very good episode at all. So I'd probably give Love and Monsters a 4 out of 10. Now let's completely ignore the little stumble we had with Love and Monsters. Let's get back to talking about a fantastic story, and Blink is amazing. I will admit, the recent DWM rankings makes Blink unbelievably overrated. I mean, the best story in the 2000 to 2010, I'd have put Waters of Mars personally. It would be in my top 3. But the second best of all time? Has anyone watched The Caves of Androzani, Remembrance of the Daleks? Has anyone watched The War Games? Has anyone ever seen any of these fantastic stories? No, they haven't. So Blink's highly overrated in my opinion, but it's still amazing. It's not overrated. It's not one of them overrated stories which is terrible, but people like it. I love it, but it's not the second best of all time. But Blink is amazing, and it's a Doctor-like episode again that didn't need the Doctor. It introduced us to Sally Sparrow and the Weeping Angels, which of course are my favourite villain in Doctor Who. And this is just an amazing introduction to them. They were so freaking spooky. The environment that they were in with that old house that they were visiting, that was a scary setting in itself. And just being introduced to these villains that they're statues. They're something we see every day, and they're known for keeping still. But as soon as you turn away, as soon as you blink, they move and they kill you, and they slowly kill you in a generous way, in the way that they send you back in time and make you live out the rest of your life kind of without any friends or family. You've just kind of got to start again. So it's a generous way, but it's kind of a long, torturous way of killing, and that's why I love them. I mean, the concept of the Weeping Angels is just amazing. Moffat, I've got to give it to you. That is very, very clever. Once again, another fantastic villain he's created, and this story is just amazing because Sally Sparrow's friend gets sent back in time, and we end up seeing her grandson bringing Sally a letter. And just like Love and Monsters with Elton, it's good to see the world of Doctor Who from a human's perspective through Sally Sparrow, but it was executed perfectly in this story. Like that scene where she met I can't remember his name. That police officer, was he? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was always saying how much he liked her, and that he would have to take her out for a drink sometime. And then the next minute she sees him in a hospital on his deathbed, and he was saying that he'd waited his entire life to say goodbye to her, and that he only had till the rain stopped. I mean, it just really shows how sad and how torturous the Weeping Angels can be, they make you live out your life until you die of old age, and it's so goddamn sad. But at the same time, it was a very scary episode as well, and it was quite a wibbly wobbly timey wimey episode, but it was done well. Moffat's done a few, timey wimey episodes that have just confused me and kind of put me off watching the episode. I've just kind of went, I don't want to watch this, I can't enjoy it. But Blink was done. It was wibbly wobbly, but it was done in a very clear way with the Doctor being on these DVDs, and it all made perfect sense in the end. So Blink is a fantastic episode, and it's one of the best in New Who, but I would definitely say it's a little bit overrated for my liking. But the Weeping Angels were just amazing in it, so I can understand why Blink is loved by so many people, but a bit overloved. I think there are stories that are better, but it's certainly a fantastic story. So I'd definitely give Blink a 9 out of 10. Now into Series 4 with the episode Midnight, and this is an episode that quite a few people don't like, and I don't know why. I love this episode. I mean, I really, really love this episode. It is one of my favourites, because people say, oh, the reason why this is not a good episode is because it's just set in one little place, there's hardly any cast, it's a small group of people, it's not the amazing Doctor episode where we go to all these different places. It doesn't have to be that. A Doctor episode doesn't have to go to all these different places. I mean, look at the classic episodes. Some of the great classic episodes, especially in the 60s, were going from one set to another and then back to the first set, and it was just jumping between. But they made an episode last 6 parts, 4, 6, 7 parts, just with these 2 sets. And Doctor Who has never needed, massive set production to be good. It just needs a good characters, good villain, and a good story. And Midnight had that. Going on this exploration to this place full of diamonds. And this creature that we never actually get to see its physical form, that possessed people and copied their voices, is very, very creepy indeed. And the way that it slowly went from copying people to then learning and then talking before them was extremely spooky. I mean, it even overcame the Doctor. And what I loved about this story is the characters we met were amazing, such a great variety of people, and I like the way that they slowly turned on the Doctor. And there were some that were with him and some were against him, and they were going to chuck him out at times when he was helpless. And it was just an episode that kept me on the edge of my seat, because I was like, don't throw the Doctor out, don't. He's right, listen to him, sort of thing. And then there were some people who were like, no, the Doctor is right, and then they'd turn against him. So what made this episode was the characters, I think, and the villain itself, which again, we didn't need a physical form, but it worked. This episode lacked loads of sets, it lacked loads of characters, it lacked a physical villain, but it was still amazing, and it didn't need any of them things, because it just carried itself amazingly well. And seeing some humans sacrifice themselves to get this villain off of the ship was very sad and powerful. So I don't know why people don't like Midnight. I mean, if it's just for the low set production and all that, that's not a valid reason at all. There's no reason why that should drag this story down. Midnight is one of my favourites. I really love it. It's just got such a spooky essence about it, and I will always go back and watch it again no matter what. I never get tired of it. So Midnight, I'd have to give it a 9 out of 10. I really love it. It just keeps getting better and better. Here is my favourite historical episode of Doctor Who, which is Vincent and the Doctor, and you all know I love these episodes because it makes Doctor Who seem closer to reality, and this is just a beautiful episode. If I could sum it up, it educated me about Vincent van Gogh, which is something that I think Doctor Who always set out to do when going into the past. When we meet all these famous people like the Aztecs and stuff, people from back in time, and we learn about them. It's like Doctor Who is like a really fun history lesson. And this episode really educated me on Vincent van Gogh, made me respect him more as a person, and he was portrayed by one hell of an actor who looked exactly like flipping Vincent van Gogh as well. Talk about good casting. But apart from the historical elements of it, the set design was absolutely fantastic, and the villain that we met was amazing, because you thought it was a really scary villain at first, when in fact it was just looking for its friends and looking for the rest of its species, and it was alone. And it's such a sad episode as well, because we get to see the life of Vincent van Gogh and the tortures he went through and the struggles he went through with his work, and that he was so disliked, and yet he became one of the greatest artists ever. Although the cameo from Bill Nighy I would have liked to have seen him in it a lot more, but his cameo worked really well, so I'm happy with how that went, as much as I would have liked to have seen him more. But yeah, as you can see on screen, another beautiful moment. This episode was full of beautiful, powerful moments that, you know, just stand out to me as some of the best in Doctor Who, because it's the perfect Doctor Who story. They go back into the past, they meet a historical person, they have a great monster, and they have some really beautiful moments, and they had that throughout this episode. The Doctor was fantastic. Amy was amazing as well in this episode. It's very hard to fault, and the ending is so sad when the monster dies and it's laid there in the Doctor's arms and it's crying and it was just saying that it was alone. It's just such a sad episode. And to make it even more sad, something we rarely see in Doctor Who is the Doctor actually take this historical figure into the future to see their work, and Vincent breaks down into tears. It's just another beautiful, powerful moment that we rarely see in historical stories in Doctor Who, and we still find out that he dies a couple of weeks later, and that Amy feels sad that she didn't actually change his life, and he still passed away and took his own life. So another powerful, beautiful story with historical elements. I think Vincent and the Doctor is very close to being the perfect Doctor Who episode, and if I was to show someone who'd never seen the show before an episode of Doctor Who, this would probably be one of the first I'd show them. It's a truly beautiful episode, one of my favourites. I'd give Vincent and the Doctor a 9 out of 10. Into Series 6 with another episode that strung the feels. My God, what is it with episode 10s and the feelings coming out? I mean, my good God. The Girl Who Waited, another amazing episode, this time revolving around the companion of Amy Pond, and I think all companions need a story which defines them. I think Rose had that with Father's Day, and a few other companions have had stories that have really defined them. I think Donna had that with Turn Left. I don't know if Martha had one. Maybe, actually, I think the Series 3 finale defined Martha pretty well. So yeah, this is the story that, well, I think a lot of stories defined Amy as a character, and as much as at times she was a bit of a hard character to watch because you didn't know where her loyalties lied, really, this was such a lovely episode because she got caught in 2 different time zones, and there was one Amy that was with the Doctor, and there was another Amy that basically lived out on this planet on her own for so many years. And yeah, Rory had the hardest chance that I think anyone would ever have to face, choosing between your wife and your other wife, who had waited all these years to see you again, and had spent so many years just keeping herself alive and just keeping herself safe to see you again. And the fact that the older Amy had fought that long just to see the Doctor again, just to keep a glimmer of hope that she could once leave that place, to then end up getting stuck there anyway, is really, really sad. I think you forget about the villains in this story. You just think about the character of Amy, and the ending where the Doctor says, "Oh yeah, you can come with me. We can have them both." And the old Amy once again has fought her entire life on the line, killing all these robots just so they're all safe to go into the TARDIS. Once again, she put so much hard work into it, and the Doctor shuts the door in her face. It's just, what a dark moment that is for the Doctor, because he says that we can have them both, but deep down the Doctor lies. He knows they can only have one in the TARDIS, and such a sad ending because Rory's he's got the young Amy who he can still spend the rest of his life with in the TARDIS with him, but he's got his other wife on the other side of the door, and they say an emotional goodbye, and it's just such a sad episode, a very powerful episode that doesn't really revolve around killing villains and stuff like that, or saving the world. It's more about Amy, and it's more about her love for Rory, and not taking people for granted sort of thing. It's got a lot of good morals, this episode. So The Girl Who Waited is a truly beautiful story that always tugs on the heartstrings and the feels a little bit when I watch it. So I'd probably again give it a 9 out of 10. And finally, to conclude, probably the most flawless episode we've had so far is an episode that kind of trips up a bit. I mean, we started off, nice and smooth, had a bit of a stumble, but ever since then it's been absolutely brilliant. Smooth sailing, and then we get to the finish line and we have another bit of a stumble with Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. I cannot believe I've just compared this episode to a race. I'm really good with my analogies. Anyway, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. the more I watch this, well, my opinion's changed incredibly a lot. You know, sometimes I watch it and I love it, sometimes I hate it. And I think when this episode first rolled around, you know, the hype that this episode had, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS, after the Doctor's wife, you know, there was no limits with the TARDIS. We could see anything. You know, the TARDIS was much more of a broad, you know, expand character that we could explore more. And, you know, with obviously, you know, modern Who's set productions we could have, we all thought, oh my god, they could create the TARDIS and they could create so many great pieces of it. All the parts of the TARDIS we've heard of in the past we could finally see, and it was a little bit underwhelming. I think if this episode wasn't so heavily hyped about going to the centre of the TARDIS, it wouldn't have been as bad. But I think the hype that it was given and the title itself, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS, I think hyped this episode too highly, and it maybe didn't fulfill its expectations as much as we'd like. I still enjoyed it. I liked the characters we met, and I liked that all along that young lad thought that he was actually a cyborg, when in fact he wasn't. He was actually the guy's brother, which was quite a powerful revelation at the end of the story. And the zombies that were chasing Clara around the TARDIS, you know, the revelation that they were actually Clara and them other people was quite shocking as well. But you know, there's some times in this story where you kind of think, oh, oh my god, another letdown. Like when Clara briefly walked past the swimming pool in the library, I was like, really? Is that it? You know, there was only one scene what really stood out to me, which kind of stood up to expectations, where she went into that room and saw the book with the history of the Time War and said, oh, so that's what you're called. That was one of the only few scenes that actually really fulfilled expectation. You know, there was a few where we'd walk into certain rooms and it'd be like, oh my god, and there was somewhere, you know, there were some rooms in the TARDIS where they walked on the edge of a cliff face, and it was like, my god, the TARDIS can literally be anything. And I like the way that the TARDIS was, you know, kind of fooling with them, you know, making rooms pop up in certain places. It showed the power the TARDIS has. So there are some parts of this episode and some aspects of it that I like, and some that let me down a little bit. So I'm going to be generous to this episode. It is a letdown, I'll admit, and it could have been so much better. But I still think it's a decent episode, so I'd probably give Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS a 7 out of 10. To conclude, the most difficult decision I have had to make so far in the Best Possible series, we've had 5 amazing stories, and then we've had Love and Monsters and Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. All the others have been absolutely amazing, and you do not know how difficult it has been to choose between some of these episodes. You know, we've had Blink, The Doctor Dances, they're both amazing episodes. Vincent and the Doctor is one that I hold so close. The Girl Who Waited, another really powerful story. Midnight is a very good one as well. So this was extremely difficult to choose. But the one I have chosen is one of the reasons I've chosen it is because it has my favourite villain. Just gave it away. And it's an episode that I love because I just love spookiness in Doctor Who, and I love scariness. And this episode definitely did that. It revolutionised what it was like, you know, in Doctor Who for a villain to be scary. It revolutionised what a story would be like without the Doctor. It just changed so much, and it kind of raised the bar, I think, in New Who. So, despite, you know, the girl, I'm not saying any of the episodes weren't good enough. You know, again, I'm just choosing the best episode. If I could choose the others, I would. They're all brilliant apart from 2. So my favourite episode, 10, just once again by the smallest of margins, goes to Series 3's Blink. So then guys, as always, thank you for watching this week's video. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and comment below your favourite episode 10 of New Who. Tell me what it is and why in the comments below. And I want to thank you guys if you have stuck with me through these 2 weeks, as you've had 4 episodes of the Best Possible series to fill in this gap. So what I might do is I might just do a massive answering comments video, answering all the comments from episodes 7, 8, 9 and 10. We'll have to wait and see. But thank you for everyone who has watched throughout these 2 weeks. I hope my videos have satisfied you and kept you watching throughout these 2 weeks, but we will be returning to our normal schedule next week when James comes back off holiday. So I'll be back next Friday with episode 11 of the Best Possible series. So until then, have a good week, guys.